Have you ever seen the movie Set It Off?
Yes,
With
that's the one with Chris Brown.
no. What? Set It Off is
Stop the
that's
artist.
something oh my god. No. Do not keep anything out. Make sure that you do come into that knowing that. There's always going to be a spoiler. Watch with us so it's not a spoiler to you.
Hello, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 9 of 2Chicks 2Cents. If you're new here, I'm Tiffany, and this is my lovely co host, Delilah. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the 1998 movie Enemy of the State. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out.
If you missed last week's episode, we did talk about the 1996 movie Dunstan Checks In. And before we get into this podcast, we really wanted to address, last week we were talking about one of the actors in Dunstan Checks In named Glenn Shaddix. And we were reading his Wikipedia page and telling the information that we were reading. But one of our viewers, thank you so much, on our TikTok told us that that information was not correct about him. So we went back and did more of a deep dive on him. And it turns out that while sadly he has passed away, he did not have any kind of legal issues or trouble with minors. So we really don't want to be a part of misinformation or anything like that. So we just wanted to let you guys know that that information was not correct and we're so sorry. And instead of deleting last week's podcast, we're just going to address it here, change our bio, and move forward from there. Rest in peace to Glenn Shaddix. He is going to be removed from our ban list and we are so sorry. All of the links will be down below for last week's episode. Besides that information, last week's episode was very, very fun. Let's get into our description of the 1998 Will Smith movie, Enemy of the State.
In the 1998 movie Enemy of the State, Robert Dean's life is thrown into chaos when he unknowingly comes into possession of evidence exposing a high-level political murder. Targeted by corrupt NSA officials, Dean is completely in the dark about why he is being relentlessly pursued. His only shot at surviving and uncovering the truth is by trusting a former intelligence agent named Brill. Laced with adrenaline-pumping action, Enemy of the State illustrates the dangers of surveillance and how this loss of privacy threatens our very freedom in this digital age.
What the hell is happening? I blew up the building. Why? Because you made a phone call!
All right, so Enemy of the State. You said that you realized you had seen it before.
Yes.
So, yeah. Did you remember a lot that was going on in the movie, or was it like watching it new?
As soon as I started watching it after a little while, I didn't remember the little things, but I did remember some of the big things. Like I remembered how he ended up in this whole mess. Like the friend, or not the friend, the guy that he knew slips the thing into his bag. But I didn't remember that it took him so long to figure that out and get it back. And then I didn't remember that Lisa Bonet's character, what's her name, like Rachel or something. I didn't remember that she died.
Yeah, I
Um,
didn't remember that either.
these kind of movies I can watch over and over again because you don't remember those little things. You're just like, oh, that is so cool. Like how they thought of doing this and that's how they got here or there or whatever. Like those little things like always get me.
Yeah, yeah. What was your rating?
Oh, my rating for Enemy of the State, I want to say it's a solid like 8 for me. An 8, 8.5. I love conspiracy movies or like cop, like CIA, FBI, even regular cops. Like I love all of those movies and I love where it's like one man against like a conspiracy or something, and just like whenever it shows you all of these like ins and out of like the government or just like this agency or something, and it's like I'm not in that world so I don't know that all of these things are true or even any of these things. So it's kind of fun to watch these things and imagine like, oh my god, is this really what it's like over there? Like I
We have
like it.
no idea what our government or like any of the governments are capable of. Like,
We have no clue.
No, none at all. And they have teams that have technology that far surpasses anything that we've seen yet, and it's just not available to us, you know.
Yeah. And
So,
then like, because even the guy, Brill, that's helping him or whatever, he's showing him like this crazy technologically advanced, like, oh yeah, this is how I'm monitoring, blah blah blah. And he's like, this is how they did it 20 years ago. And it's like, 20 years ago, what are they doing now? But then this movie is from
exactly.
1998 and we're in 2024. So this is like 26 years ago. It's like, oh, what are they doing now? And you know that
Right?
they have more technological advances within our government, within all the governments, within all the secret agencies and all that stuff than we have available to us at home. So you don't know
Yeah.
what's going on, and you don't know if these movies are true or not. I love them. I
Yeah.
love
I
them.
kept thinking about that the whole time. I was like, this was 1998. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh. And I remember the first time I saw it, I was really impressed by
Mm-hmm.
the technology in it. Very, very impressive.
Well,
And
because like the technology in
like,
it to this day still holds up. So I'm like,
yeah,
that's pretty good.
yeah. Now it's common knowledge, the government's listening to everything and,
We do.
obviously, be discreet when you're on the phone and all this stuff. But
We all
like,
assume that we have our own FBI agent watching our phone and stuff that knows the ins and out of our life, like we're secret besties.
right? He
So
knows
this
me.
stuff isn't that far fetched. What
Um,
was your rating?
oh, I also gave it like an 8. I was like, yeah, tons of familiar faces in that movie.
Yes, I thought it was so funny slash neat that they had all the tech guys were like comedians, but they were
Uh-huh.
not being like comedians in
Yeah.
this movie. But they had like Jack Black, I think Seth Green, and Jamie Kennedy. I'm like, all you guys are comedians, and
Yeah.
they're all playing semi serious. So I thought that was funny, and it was all when they were like much younger, and I'm assuming not as well known as they are in like their prime. But I thought it
I
was
feel
cool
like
to
they
see
were
everything.
all probably at least famous, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I feel
Um,
like after this movie, like a little bit thereafter, I feel like early 2000s is when they all like were like in their prime, like they were like big deals, putting out a lot of
killing it.
yeah, movies and stuff. And like now some of them, coming back or are around, but not as big deal as they were early 2000s for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Jamie Kennedy was the big surprise for me. I was
Yeah.
like, what?
Every
Yeah.
time I see
Anyway.
Jamie Kennedy, like to me, all he is B Rad G. So I'm just like, B Rad, what are you doing here? Oh my!
That's the
Every
best
single time I
movie.
see him in anything, I'm like, what are you doing here, B Rad? And I expect him to drop a verse, and I'm like, that's not who he is for real. But for me, at least, he is B Rad. He's Malibu's most wanted. That's who he is in his
Honestly, I
regular
every time
life.
I'm like looking for my chapstick, I'm like, traffic, traffic, looking for my chapstick.
He really, honestly, like for
There's
me,
a Ford
probably
Maverick.
for millennials, I think that he just really, that's who he is for us. He embodied that role.
That movie and White Chicks were probably like the best two movies of that time in that genre, in that little
To this day,
category.
like, because I have my DVD collection and I have Malibu's Most Wanted, and if I'm watching DVDs, 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna pop in Malibu's Most Wanted and watch that in my little rotation. I think I know almost all the words to that movie. Like, that is just a staple in my heart. I love that. I love that movie so much, and it just doesn't ever get old.
Yeah, it's been so long since I've seen that one. I need to watch it again.
Girl, I have it.
Yes. I thought it was funny when right after they killed the guy, right? So they injected him and then they put him in his car and then they spill a bunch of pills in there. But then they dump it in the lake, so all the pills are just gonna dissolve. They're not even gonna be there,
True.
like as evidence.
And
I
back
thought
then,
that
they
was so
didn't have
funny.
like trace evidence really. Like, they didn't have,
I mean, they probably would find the bottle,
maybe that would,
but
maybe.
you didn't really need to spill the pills.
Yeah.
I
I
think.
honestly didn't even catch that. Like, I was just like, oh, whatever, like about it all, but I didn't really think about the pills dissolving. That wasn't very smart of them. Oh my god, the guy that was there that noticed him, that like had on a cop uniform. I don't think he was a real cop or whatever, and he's one of the henchmen. As soon as I saw him, I was like, Professor Quirrell, what are you doing here? He is Professor Quirrell in the first Harry Potter when Voldemort's on the back of his head and he wears like a turban the whole time. Then you find out
Oh,
Voldemort's on the back of his head. That's him. I was like, what are
that's
you doing here? I thought
crazy.
when he's like watching the guy like driving over and he sees him, I'm like, if I was doing a murder, like after I did the murder, I'd look around, like, oh, is there anything that I should clean up, or maybe somebody saw me or anything, and they didn't look around at all, because as soon as I saw the box, I was like, don't like hunters or like nature people or whatever, like they record, like, like they have those boxes where either like the, what are they called, like those hideaways or something, where you hang out for a long time if you're hunting, so, and they're camouflage so animals don't see them, so there's that. And then sometimes my husband was telling me that hunters will record an area for a while so they know what kind of wildlife is in that area, so they know what they're going to be hunting or if they even want to hunt there. And I'm like, you could have looked around for something, because that box was not hidden. It was just a huge box with a little hole. Like, it wasn't hidden at all. I'm like, they just did a murder and left. I'm like, that was really sloppy on your point. You kind of deserved to get caught. Like, you were very sloppy.
They did not do their due diligence because
At
I mean,
all.
obviously they planned it. I mean, they planned on trying to convince him. They
Mm-hmm.
hoped that he would comply, but obviously
Mm-hmm.
they had that contingency, and they would have planned that meeting area with the expectation of having to carry
Mm-hmm.
that out. So yeah, they did not do their due diligence.
At all.
I
And you can't
also
be
thought,
doing murders without
yeah,
doing your due diligence. You just can't. It
yeah.
doesn't work.
You can't
Clearly.
do murders like that. Not the government anyway.
No. It's bad business. It's bad murdering. It's 101.
Yes.
Come on.
You're supposed to know what you're doing.
Yeah. You're bold enough to do a murder, bold enough to do
Do it
some
right.
research. Come on. Come
Come
on.
on. That's Angelina Jolie's dad, right?
As soon as I saw him, I was like, oh, look, it's Angelina's dad. Every time I see him, I'm like, that's her dad. That's weird.
Yeah, every
But
time I
also,
see
I
him,
feel
that's what I
like
do too.
this part of their faces, like the cheek and the nose, like it looks like they look very similar, just like in that part of their face.
That's interesting. I wrote down when they rate the movies, like the R rating or whatever, they put smoking in there.
I do like looking at the older movies and like how they used to rate them and stuff. I think you need to go back to this old rating system because you're doing a little
Right.
much.
Yeah, because people are so influenced by what they watch on TV. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
remember watching, you ever see that show Mad Men?
I know what it is. I never watched it.
They
A lot of
smoked so
dialogue.
much in that show that I was like, I want a cigarette. It was crazy. I remember just thinking
I wonder
about
if it
like,
was a real cigarette.
oh, I don't know, probably maybe not because that would be really bad for the actors.
Yeah, that would be really bad.
I
Hmm.
wonder what they do now. That's interesting.
Yeah. I know people smoke still, but I just feel like it's just every time I see a random person smoking, I'm just like taken back. Like, what the heck? Like, people are doing that still? What?
Me too, because everyone swapped to e-cigs.
Hmm.
And so it's weird to see someone with a regular cigarette.
And I think because, like, most building stuff, like, you can't smoke in there, obviously. You can't smoke right in front, obviously. And, like, so I just kind of feel like it's so hidden. So you don't, like, openly see people smoking that often. So every time I'm, like, taken back, like, what the heck? Like,
Let's talk about, and we kind of touched on it in the beginning, but like just how much power that gave the people who were working like surveillance, you know? Like
mm-hmm.
they were even going outside of their own guidelines, you know? Like this was a mission that was covered up even from the people at the NSA,
Yep.
and they just were able to fake permissions.
They just were shady even to like their own agency, which I feel like once you're doing that, you're really just off the grid. Like, I wonder what that guy, Jolie's dad's character, what he did to get such loyalty from all of these people, because they know that they're doing wrong and they're all employees of the government. It's like, why do you guys trust in him so much to be doing a lot of bad shit for him that's not authorized? Like,
Wow, that's a good
I think that's
question.
weird. I think that's like super weird. I just wonder how they like got together, all these bad people doing, like, I don't know.
And it was also kind of creepy. Like, people working in surveillance, I feel like they've got to be just a little bit creepy. And like,
Oh yeah.
just like that one scene where Jack Black was like, let me follow the maid. Like, just let me follow her. I was
And
like,
she's like an old
ew.
lady. That's creepy.
Right? Ew.
It was just so creepy.
To watch people like that all the time and for extended periods of time in every situation, like, you gotta be a creeper.
I also feel like Will Smith's character's wife, Regina King or whatever, if I saw that my husband was accused of like all this shit in the newspaper, that he got fired or whatever, my first response would not be to kick him out. I would need to know a little. I'd be like, okay, tell me what's going on then. And you may know, of course, I'll kick you out if I need to kick you out. But it would take me a moment. I'm like, I need a little bit more information because all I'm seeing is, why the hell are you in the newspaper like this? Like, what could you have done that warranted all of this? Like, we're not people in that position of life that warrant to be in the newspaper and all this stuff. Like, this is very
Exactly. It's
weird.
out of
And for
character.
her, yeah, and she's like very like conspiracy person. That's who she is. Or so I thought that it was weird that she right away was like believing it. That
I agree with you. Like, I did think it was a little bit much for her to have such a dramatic, I don't trust you, my husband,
mm-hmm.
whatever. But at the same time, she was very emotional from that previous experience. Like,
Yeah,
he did cheat. So, like, and he was hiding the fact that he did just speak to her, and that stuff was in the
yeah,
papers first before all the extra stuff. So I could see it a little bit, but I still, even after like a day or two, like of calming down from that, then I would be a lot more
yeah,
open,
yeah,
especially
yeah.
if I were her. Like,
I would just think that it was so weird that even him being in the newspaper talking to this girl, like, that's weird. Why is that in the newspaper? Why am I receiving pictures like this? Like, yeah, I'm pissed and we're going to deal with this, and I need to know like what's going on because I don't trust you, like, especially if you've had an affair or whatever.
that's true. I would
But
be immediately
immediately, I
suspicious.
think maybe I'm just like too suspicious of a person. Immediately my first response would be like, why is this news? And why did somebody send this carrier pigeon or whatever to me? That's weird.
I would have been suspicious about that break in
Yeah.
too because they really didn't take anything. They just broke
Yeah.
stuff and then took his
I'd
blender.
be like,
Like, that
and then
makes no
like for that to
sense.
have happened, and then to see all this stuff in the newspaper about my husband, and then to receive somebody comes to my door directly with some pictures of him talking to his ex or whatever, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. And I understand, of course, I'm mad, but something's going on, and my family is being targeted.
Yeah. That was funny when he's like, you need to go to your parents or whatever. And she's like, no, this is my house. I'm not leaving. Like,
It's like, you got a kid to think about. You got your life to think
yeah,
about. I'm like, I can always come back to my house. It's
always.
not like I'm gonna leave
Hmm.
and then they're gonna find my deed and fake my signature and it's not my house anymore. Like, something weird is going on, and
Right.
you just gotta go for a little bit.
About the pictures too, like if that happened like now, I mean, with all of the AI stuff, and
I
how
wouldn't
good
believe it.
people are at Photoshop, I wouldn't even trust the
Nope.
photo. I'd be like,
Especially like you said,
I gotta
now
see it.
I'd see it and I'd be like, this is fake. Just because like I'm so suspicious, like, why did this come to my door? And then like you said, with the way AI, I'm like, I need to talk to my man. But yeah, that's the
Yeah.
stuff that I really like liked about the movie. I just felt like it's so intricate, and it was one of those movies where, like, don't look away, like, don't walk away, because like you need to like hear and see like little things are happening. And I just love like a big mystery, and then in the end when it all comes together, and I'm like, oh, that was very good. That was, and I feel like I watch so many movies now, a lot of times I can predict what's going to happen. So whenever there's a lot of little things like that, I like it because it takes you longer to figure out exactly what the whole like plot and everything is. So like that's why I really love intricate.
That tied in so
Yeah.
well
I
at
yeah,
the end.
love it. That's all I gotta say.
I did giggle a little when like they all start shooting and then it's just like lights flashing
And they're
and you
all
just see them all like this and it was
and I'm
so
just like,
dramatic.
this
Yeah,
looks,
it
they
was.
probably were like, all right, you're getting shot, give me your best, you got shot. And They're all like, I got you.
I remember watching that the first time. I remember thinking it was so
Hmm.
intense.
And then seeing it now, I'm like, that wasn't very intense.
uh,
You know what, to
yeah,
me,
yeah.
the most intense shootout gets me every time, the tears, and I'm just like, this is a good shootout. This is believable to this day. Have you ever seen the movie Set It Off
Yes,
with
that's the one with Chris Brown.
no? What? Set It Off is
Stop the
that's
artist.
Stomp the Yacht. Oh my god, no. Set It Off is with Queen
Wait.
Latifah and Jada Pinkett Smith.
Oh shit!
When Queen
I love
Latifah
that movie.
when Queen Latifah gets into her shootout with the cops and she lights her cigarette, she's in the car, and you hear the song is playing day after day. She lights it, she takes her last smoke, she looks around, she's kind of crying, and she gets out and then Queen Latifah just and like tears, she's crying, she goes cross-eyed, blood, oh, it's the saddest, most believable, just oh my gosh, it just gets me every time, right in my gut. It's
Uh, I'm gonna watch
oh
that again.
gosh, we're gonna put that in our childhood favorites. I've been watching that way since before I should have been, for
Okay, then I'll
sure.
wait.
For sure shouldn't have been watching that. I'm feeling stressed right now, like my heart started pumping thinking about it. Oh, Queen Latifah, good lord, she's a queen for a reason.
You got me thinking about all the crazy shootout scenes. Like,
Nah.
and I remember there's one that was significant to me. So there was a movie with Mel Gibson called Ransom, and I think it was like either 80s or 90s. I don't remember, but I think that was the first time that I'd seen a movie where like you saw someone get shot and you'd see the blood like come out. Like that was the first movie I'd ever seen that way, and I just thought it was so intense. And I'm curious if it's really that intense or if it was just because it was the first time I'd seen that, you know?
You rewatch it.
Hmm.
Rewatch that movie. And you can't just watch that scene, because if you don't watch the whole movie, then
No,
you're
I'm gonna
not in
watch the whole movie
the
again.
feels for it to know if it's
Yes.
actually intense or not.
So my parents, you know how they're really strict?
Yeah.
So we had all our movies like downstairs in like these drawers, tons of movies. And then there were movies that were upstairs by the big TV and they had like this glass, you know, the push windows with the magnets.
Yeah.
So all of my parents' movies, like the VHS tapes, were in there and we weren't allowed to watch those.
If they didn't want you guys sneaking to get them, they shouldn't have had them so easily accessible.
They're like displayed, you know.
Yeah, they were just like, "Oh, you can't have this. You can try,
Right.
and you gotta."
But, you know, if they were both gone, you know, and we knew they were going to be gone like
Yeah.
a long time, you know, watch a couple. That's how I watched Matrix for the first time.
I don't have any movies that I had to like sneak and watch it. All right, well, since you've got our ratings, you've got our conspiracy theories, I guess we're all done with Enemy of State. Let's get into Make It Make Sense. Let me pull up my little stopwatch.
Me too.
It's reset. So I watched River's Edge, and you watched.
Maximum Overdrive.
Okay. So last time I went first, so Tiffany's gonna go first today. Tiffany, tell the people how you felt about Maximum Overdrive starting now.
Okay, I did not like this movie. I gave it a 2 out of 10. It was a Stephen King movie about so there's like a comet that comes close to Earth, and in like the 7 days that it's passing, all of like the radio frequencies or something, the waves hit the Earth and made all the machines and everything, all the electronics go crazy and start killing people. And I thought it was just really dumb and really long and really
You're
boring.
done. I feel like this is the very first time that we've gotten like a so negative review from you. I kind of love it. It's not just me. I love it.
Right?
uh,
Okay, so are you ready, Delilah?
yes, I am.
Okay, so Delilah's telling us about River's Edge. In three, two, one.
I feel bad because I did not like this movie. I give it a three, 2.5 out of 10. It's just about this town of really messed up kids. It's a very small town, but for some reason nobody's checking in on these kids, and they're doing murders and having crazy thoughts, and their parents are nowhere to be found. And I just I was just like, what is up with this town? What is in the water? That's how I felt the whole time I'm watching this. I'm like, what is in the water? What's wrong with these kids? And also, where is
Oh,
everybody else in
stop.
this town?
Stop. I forgot to give you your 5 minute warning or 5 second warning.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. But I felt so bad, especially because this is our somebody
Recommendation.
suggested this one as our recommendation. Um, but I do think that I know why she recommended it. I don't know if this was one of her favorites. But we were talking about what's his name, Crispin
Crispin
or something.
Glover.
Yeah, we were talking about him, and I think Keanu also possibly. But we were talking about him. We talk about him a lot for some reason, from Charlie Angels and all that. And a young him. This is the youngest I've ever seen him in a movie, so I thought that it was cool seeing that. But the character that he was playing, I was like, dude, what the hell? Like, just this town, like every single kid was messed up, every single one.
Every single kid.
And Keanu was sort of like how he was in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, like just style wise, but he wasn't fun. He was definitely troubled too. His brother was super troubled. Oh my god, this town is messed up. Don't want to drop an F-bomb, but oh my god, this town is messed up.
I watched it too, and I remember. So the very beginning of it, I remember seeing the guy who killed the girl, and I remember thinking, okay, I'm really grateful that it wasn't Crispin's character, because I was like, he's always playing some
Yeah,
creepy guy, some whatever, and so I was like, okay, it's not him. And then I was like, I wonder what his character is going to be like, and I did not expect him to be
I
that
didn't get
way,
it at all. His character was acting as if like he was the one that did the murder. That's what I
right?
was. His friend did a murder, and his friend wasn't even trying to cover it up or do anything about it or anything. He was
He
ready to
told
go to jail or
everybody right away.
everybody right away. Brought
He
everyone to see it, and then was like, when people were like, like, oh heck no, I don't want to be a part of this, whatever, like running away. He was like, let him go. It's okay. Let him go.
I
It
am
was
actually
so
surprised
so
that the girl
strange.
didn't follow through with calling the cops.
They pick up the phone and they're like, what number do I call? And I remember saying out loud to my husband, I was like, 911. It's always been 911. There's never
No,
been
no,
another
it
number.
used to be a phone number, and 911 was a
Oh,
little bit more recent. I don't know when, like, exactly it changed, but it used to be like,
but all she had to do was you
press
like she said,
zero.
yeah, she was like, I'll dial it. She pressed zero. I was like, okay, like you got to talk to the operator.
Yeah.
I'm not that old. You talk to the operator, but you're just like, I need the police. I need the cops. That's it. That's what you do. That's what you say. Crispin's character, what was his name, Lyle or something like that? It was so crazy that when the friend that did the murder, when they find him dead, he's crying and all these emotions, and he's like, oh god, and I'm like, that's what you should have been giving Jamie. Jamie didn't deserve to die.
Yeah,
A
and he's like,
mess.
a man's got to do what a man's got to do sometimes, or like he had his reasons for killing her. Like it was just
I would instantly, if I was the friends, especially those girls, I would not trust him and I would not want to be around him, or especially not alone or anything. Because it's like he thinks that women can do things and deserve to be murdered.
yeah.
What?
Yeah. And oh my God, do you remember that one scene where the girl's like, yeah, they probably want to just get you out there and try and rape you? And she's like, really? You think so? It's like, what the fuck is wrong with
I'm
him?
like, this town is messed up. These kids are messed up. I don't know if it's 80s
Those little
movies,
kids,
but
too. I really thought he was going to kill his brother. Like, I was like,
yeah.
this is Lord of the Flies up in this bitch.
And
With
I
those two
really felt
kids,
like the little brother is torturing that little sister or whatever. I was like, this brother is gonna do something to that sister. I was like, this is just hella weird. All around, I was like, this is just weird. Yeah, I was just like, this is messed up. And I didn't like how many times and how long they kept focusing on Jamie, the dead girl, and she's butt ass naked, and they're just there dead butt ass naked. So many times we see this corpse, and they just like do like a screen over her whole body, butt ass naked, dead. like each time.
Did you see her nails?
Yeah.
Did you notice her nails?
I noticed one of them was really long.
Her thumbnail was just like this
Yeah.
long, and she had all her other ones were short.
Strange. All around.
They also
strange
looked
movie.
really weird. They were like long and yellow, which that could have also been because it's a corpse, but
I don't know. But this movie wasn't for me. This movie was too. It wasn't for me. I don't like it. I didn't like it.
I didn't like it either.
I wonder how the actors feel about that movie now. Like that is something that I wish that we could, like, if we had all access, I would love to hit up the actors in some movies and be like, hey, how do you feel about this movie now?
Yeah.
Real quick.
How do you feel about it? How did you feel about it then when you were in it, playing a role like that?
But anywho, Maximum Overdrive I did not watch because honestly it didn't look like anything I'd want to watch. And from your review, I'm glad I didn't watch
Probably
it.
won't. But, there have been times where I've given low reviews to things that you do like. But
very true.
I honestly don't think you would like this one. It was just, all this stuff just took too long. Like, the opening scene, they're like, everything's on the fritz. And I remember being kind of frustrated because I'm like, I don't get it. That's a feeling I had the whole time, is like, why? I don't understand. And then even like when you start to see that it's like all the electrical stuff is on the fritz, you're like, well, I could see that if there's some electrical interference and things are going haywire, but why is it like targeting humans, and actually killing people? I thought that was really dumb. But then, they kind of explain it eventually. And it's one person just theorizing, he's like, it's the aliens. They're coming. They want our planet. And so they got to wipe out all the humans. So they got to, send the cleaners. I think that's what they called them. So yeah, they blamed it on aliens, but you don't ever see any aliens. And like I said, it was just one person who's like, I get it. I just get it. He just knew, And I'm like,
I just get it.
Yeah.
Oh, do you?
And I remember, I had kind of high expectations because it was a Stephen King story. It wasn't like based on a book. He wrote it for the screen. It was supposed to be a comedy, horror comedy, whatever. It was neither of those things to me. But I can imagine, like, in the 80s, early 80s, like, all the technology is starting to get more advanced, and that would be kind of an interesting concept. People already being kind of a little bit paranoid about technology, and then so kind of exploiting a little bit of that. But it's just one of those that didn't transcend its time period. The only thing good about it was Emilio Estevez. I like him.
Oh.
He's the Mighty Ducks guy.
Oh, Emilio.
It's time to wrap up, and let's get into our drawings for next week. Actually, we only have one. We only have Make It Make Sense drawings, so that's good.
So I have my drawings here on the ground. So remember, we only have one last recommendation. So I'm gonna put it in with our picks because we have 4 left. Now we got 4. So we're gonna draw for me first. 1/8/7, 1997.
What? Did you put that in there?
I think I did. I think that my husband told me that this was a really good movie and that I should watch it. Like, that we should put it into this segment because our last ones are in here too. Yeah, this one was my husband and I put it in as one of mine.
It's called 1/8/7? Okay.
And then you are going to be watching The Never-Ending Story, 1984. Be sure to join us next week. We're going to be talking about the show, Dinosaurs, the movie, 1/8/7, and the other movie, The Never-Ending Story.
Yes. Thank you for joining us today. We will see you next week. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.